Aboard, everybody, and welcome to our Zoom meeting, like an echo in this room. We're going to be building this mock-up of a Zoom meeting with the thought that probably a lot of meetings that used to be face-to-face meetings are going to be moving virtually and perhaps somewhat permanently. So I'm guessing that this is kind of a build that some of us will need to do going forward, and there are definitely some tricks to the trade. So what we're building today is not so much a slide as a graphic. The plan is we're going to take a quick view of inspirations that I used to figure out how this should look, and very fast run through a possible kind of in-context use, just in case you're scratching your head about how would you use this actually. I'll show you the multiple ingredients that go into this graphic, and then we will get going on building it. So inspiration. First off, I used this one, which is from the Zoom website and is a super, super clean version of a Zoom meeting. Obviously, they want to show it off and make it look like everybody just looks like a model when they're in a Zoom meeting. And it actually told me a lot of information. The bar is at the bottom, these big bars in between, so on and so forth, how the name tags look and all of that. Then on YouTube, I found somebody who was actually talking about how Zoom meetings work, and I grabbed these. And obviously, you can see a big difference between a kind of mocked up version of a Zoom meeting, made to look beautiful, and the real thing. In reality, backgrounds are often quite a lot darker than Zoom would have you think they should be. I have this currently as a gate screen. We have 9 people in the meeting, and then we have the number 10 person who is sort of the spokesperson for the program, so to speak. This guy, we're seeing him in the front here, and the back of his head is Hakeem from the eLearning Art Library, but we won't be working with him today. So if you've been with us in past meetings, you know that a gate screen is really just sort of where we set up what's going to happen next. Maybe there's a video that happens next, or we're going to move into a series of scenarios. So this sort of establishes the context for what's happening next. And that's one way that we might be able to use a graphic like this. Once we had established it, we could let go of the details of that graphic and simply pull out the squares of the headshots of the people, and then use that to kind of build out our scenarios and that kind of thing. Notice said there are quite a few ingredients involved with this one. This is because we have 9 full characters and we have to put a background behind each one of them. I went ahead and took a screenshot from a Zoom meeting for that bottom bar. Certainly that could be self-built. I just decided for purposes of our conversation here, you probably didn't need to see me putting icons and text and all of that to recreate that, but it certainly could be done if you're worried at all about anything being proprietary or it being inappropriate to use a screenshot from a real product. That would be easy enough to build. Quite a few PowerPoint shapes are involved, and then this always useful transparent monitor from the eLearning Art Library. I feel like I use this thing almost every day. So let's go ahead and jump in and let me show you how I'm building this. Let me see if I can get, all right, here we are. Now, because this is not a super quick item to build, I have gone ahead and created some of the pieces already. I hope you won't think that's cheating, but it's really just to make sure that we don't run out of time. On the screen is that monitor graphic. So I'll go to my Pictures tab, and I have that down on my desktop. There it is. And I'm just going to leave it as is for the moment. I may resize it in a second, however. The next thing I'm going to do is to establish the size of the screen. And this is really the precursor to cropping the photo characters. So it's important, actually, I should say, it makes the job a lot easier if you can define a screen space that is divisible by 3. Now I can get very easily to a 9-inch width here. I can't so easily get to a 6-inch height, unfortunately. So I had to accept that my number here for the height is going to be a little bit of an odd number, but at least I got a nice round number for the width. Now let's see how that actually plays out. I have a math lesson here, which all of these guys need to go to the back. All right, okay. So our screen size, quotes around screen size, is 9 inches wide by 5 inches high. We are going 3 across and 3 stacked for our characters. So we need to divide each of these width and height dimensions by 3 in order to get our photo crop size. So the width, 9 divided by 3, gives us a nice 3-inch width, easy to work with. The height, 5 divided by 3, gives us a slightly odder one, 1.67, and but not the worst. So I've noted those two numbers down on a pad of paper because I can never trust my memory to remember numbers. So that's something that I'll come back to in just a second. Let me go ahead and I'm going to delete this and we're clear again. So the next job is to bring some characters onto the slide. I'm just going to work on 3 characters in front of you. The rest of them, I'll just use these ready-mades. I'll work on Julie, Diane, and Debbie here. So let's go ahead and insert. Another way you can insert if you don't have the insert on your quick access bar is to go to Insert Pictures. I have them on my desktop on this device. So I'll just go, and because I've already visited this folder, it went there directly. Let me go ahead and get Debbie, clicking Shift, Diane, and Julie. And I actually had to click Control in order to skip a couple there. Now I say Insert, and they're all on the slide. I'm going to leave them at the height that they popped on right here. When we crop, PowerPoint is sensitive to the size of the character as it is on the slide, not the size of the photo, which is actually quite large in comparison to what we see here, but the size on the slide. So you may have to play around just a little bit to get the size to work for you so that you get kind of a chest height and above crop. So let's see how that plays out. Now, something I never knew about until I did this, worked on this tutorial, was that if you click on this button here, that opens the Format Picture panel. And curiously, it doesn't open it to the right place. It just kind of gives you this size and such. But if we come over here to Picture, and let me roll that up, you see right down here at the bottom, I have never even noticed that there was a crop spill right there. And there it is. This is a very wonderful tool for making good, precise crops, which is a useful thing here in the world of e-learning. So what we're going to do is simply focus here on crop position for the moment. We'll put for width 3, and then the height you might remember is 1.67. And now you see why I favor round numbers. And then up here, I'm going to move her to the center. So offset X, I'm simply going to replace that with 0. And as soon as I click away back on the slide or into another box, that crop is completed. So that's a very neat trick and something that I have fought and fought and fought to get good crops. And now that I know about this panel, my life has just become a lot easier. Alrighty, so we'll do that again for Debbie. 3 width, a 1.67, and then let's put this in 0. And you notice you don't really see the crop until you've clicked out of the box, which I don't know, I guess it means that you can't ever really eyeball if the work is going well or not, but not the end of the world. And then here is Julie. Julie is pretty tall in real life, and so her photos tend to be taller than the other characters. That's why she she seems kind of small on the slide. So I'm just going to make her a little larger before I proceed with the crop. Now, 3, 1.67, and move her to the center. All right, perfect. So now we have the 3 crops exactly how we want them. We want that little bit of chest up. We definitely want to see their full face, kind of the zoom level that we would see if we were on Zoom. I didn't realize I was going in that direction. Um, so, and now what we're going to do is add some backgrounds. This turns out to be super duper easy. Okay, so click on the cropped photo, go to the paint bucket, choose picture or texture fill. This is the default, so that means PowerPoint's been closed in between here. And I actually want to place a picture behind her. She has the hallway, so I'll say insert from file, and that's over here in the backgrounds section. That's this one. And you see it automatically pops that into place. And it does a neat job of it, I think, where you feel that that works. It's not overly stretched or overly squashed or anything. Works really nicely. So Debbie has a kind of a tile background. So I'll just do the same steps. Insert from a file, this tile background. And you see this one's actually a square to begin with. And so it's squashing it just a little bit, but that actually works pretty nicely. And finally, Julie, picture. Now you see it will always fill with the last one. So if you need to fill several different graphics with the same background, then this is going to go really, really quickly for you. But in our case, Julie chose to use a kind of a wild Zoom-like background. And there we go. Now we have those 3 characters all set up and ready in their little vignettes. Let me take a quick minute to show you where those backgrounds live in the eLearning Art Library. Now I'm already logged in here, and we're going to go to Graphics, roll down just a little bit, Backgrounds, and we have a selection of different backgrounds. About half of the backgrounds I'm using in this project today come from photo backgrounds. We have both office and medical backgrounds, both indoors and outdoors. And the textures are in the overlay and underlay category, and they are part of these different sets. So it was really just a matter of kind of going through these and finding things that I felt would be persuasive for the context where I was building. So now you know where those live, and let's go ahead and bring in the rest of the characters. Now, there's kind of a certain sequence to how these are ordered, so I'll go ahead and respect that. All right, I have those 3 lined up. I'm going to push them to the top of the slide. This is the only reason I'm doing this in the corner of the slide is that it activates the guides a little bit more. It helps us with our alignment. I'm going to go ahead and in the Align tool, I'll distribute horizontally just in case there's anything that's not quite right about those connections. And now I'm ready to bring in the other characters. Let me go down in size just a little bit. We have Gary. Come on, Gary. Up in the corner. We have Akshay right in the middle. I can see I may have a little issue right there with the size. Frank to the left. Alanda to the right. Chip, who I labeled as Chuck in our main picture, but his name is Chip. Here. And Kara. Kara, I know we have a Kara here in the meeting today, so hi Kara, we have a character named after you. So I'm going to select those and align left, or actually I'm going to say align to slide, align left, so that they're really sitting right at the edge of that slide. Then I'm going to take this set, align their middles, their centers rather, and since it's still set to align slide, it scooted it over, but that's all right. I'm going to pop those into place and do the same for this group. Oops, that didn't work. Alrighty, align their centers, and I'll use my arrow key to just walk them over just a little bit. All right, so now all of our characters are looking like they're in the right place. They look like they're in a meeting. They look suitably bored, you know, all of the above. And we're ready to add their names. Now, I went ahead and prepared the names in advance because there is nothing more dull than watching somebody type, especially bad typists like me. But I want to show you what that shape is made of. It's basically just a pulled out rectangle, no outline, filled with black, with a 50% transparency. Get that down there, alrighty. And some text. It's Verdana 12, and it's the second to last gray. Oops, yeah, that worked. All right, so let me edit text, and I'll go ahead and see. Yeah, there's Gary. Okay, since there was no text selected, it didn't capture that color change. Over white, oh, and this is left justified. Over white, that really looks pretty illegible, but you'll see when that comes up over a darker color, it really pops out. Gray is a good friend for situations like that. So I already have Gary set up. I'll go ahead and delete this. And this set at the moment is grouped, but I'm going to go Control Shift to ungroup it. And I'm going to get these aligned, aligned to the left, aligned to the center. Well, they can be aligned left. There's a method to my madness here. Just hang on with all this aligning. Get them all set up like that. I can bring the first group over, get them where I want Gary's, put Debbie's down at her spot, but I'm going to have to bring it to the front. Bring Frank's, well, I don't even have to touch Frank's actually at the moment. I select those three again, align left, and then align vertically, and they kind of pop right where they need to go. Debbie is sitting up a little bit high on her section, so that didn't work quite as well as I would have liked it to. There's a little bit of fiddly work here, but if you can think in terms of doing things in batches, even a build like this can go a lot faster. So let me go ahead and do same here. Pull those to the front. Just a second. Bring to front. Bring it down here. Get that lined up. Bring Chip down. Get him lined. Get it lined up. And just go ahead and select those three. Distribute vertically. Come back and get the last group. Bring them to the front. All right, we're almost done with the main part of this project. Move that down. 1, 2, 3. Distribute vertically, and then we'll just come across and line them all up. We'll do align middle, and I'll scoot them down just a little bit. I'm totally eyeballing whether I have them in the right spot, top to bottom on each of these. I'm sure it could be done more precisely, but I think for this purpose, it's probably not critical. And I'll just sort of walk it down and use my visual alignment tool. Align their middles, walk them down, and all of that is in good order. Now all we need to do is to grab this whole batch, Control G, and we have a nice group. We will bring that to the front and come back to our selection pane, turn our screen back on, bring that up. Now you might notice that this is sitting outside the bounds of that open area. I have found from using this screen or screens in general quite extensively that it's not super critical that you fit your work right into that open screen area. It still works fine. I don't think anybody really questions, hey, that's not wide enough. And actually modern screens often have a very slim little bezel right there. Let me drop back here, get this screenshot of the Zoom meeting. Come here, put that in place. And that's going to be quite a bit bigger when I'm all done here. I'm holding down Shift as I do that so it doesn't lose its proportions, but I think it's a little bit too wide. Go down to 9. All right. And last but not least, we need to add the bars in between. And that's actually pretty straightforward. All we're going to do is go to our shapes, drop down, get a line. Holding Shift down, I'm going to draw a line in between those characters. That is a black line with a 4.5 point width. I'll do Control click to drag that over to the next spot. I will Control D to duplicate it and rotate it left or right, it doesn't matter, to 90 degrees, and then do the same thing with the horizontals. All right. And that is our Zoom meeting, all built and ready to go. Now, if you wanted to use this across many slides, I would recommend that you again do Control G to group it all together so that you have a nice piece that you can just move around without things kind of falling apart on you. Now, as I was working on this, I thought, well, maybe you would want to have some people actively talking as though they were on a screen right here. So I went ahead and created a master slide. My master slides are here on my quick bar. So this is actually a graphic, the same graphic, put on a master slide on, kind of sitting on a desk. Now, when I come over here, if one way that I could show somebody in the meeting talking is to give them this yellow box. It's a little bit off skew. Is to give them the yellow box that we actually see way back on our inspiration slide. The person talking gets a yellow box. Done. All right, so that would be a way to use this graphic over and over again across several slides, is to simply move this yellow box around from person to person, mess around with your speech bubble a little bit, and you're ready to go. So if you build this graphic, you might be wondering, how can I use that? And there are, of course, many ways you could use it. But for my purposes here, I'm thinking that I would actually be presenting some content, and maybe it would be related to how to manage communication in a Zoom meeting, or it could be related to something completely else, and this would just be establishing a context for that content.